Lately, I've been reading Faces at the Bottom of the Well. The Permanence of Racism is the subtitle by Derrick Bell. It's a recent, it's a fairly recent book, end of the 20th century, towards the end of the 20th century. The book came out in 1992. So that's why I say towards the end of the 20th century. So it's fairly new. It's not like mid 20th century, 1951, um, like the book We Charge Genocide, or 1964, the book about 100 years of lynchings. So the reason why I wanted to talk about um, faces at the bottom of the well is because there are two things that happen in the book that, and it's fiction. The book is nonfiction, but it's got some fictitious elements to it, and he did it just to prove a point. So if you read the book, you'll get you'll get the meaning of what he's writing, and of course he has real history interwoven into the story. But the first thing, and this was amazing because the first time I started reading the book, I came across the this concept. It's called Afrolandia, and how white people were just like besides themselves. They were just besides themselves because the black people were able to live on a particular island, Afrolantica. It's called the Afrolantica Awakening. That's what the title of this chapter is. And so he created this world where only black people could survive on. Only black people. And white people were so upset. This is what one angry white, hostile white guy said. Damn, it ain't right. I can hear him now. The niggers got sports and pop music all tied up. Now this. It's more than this God fearing, American loving white man can take. Yeah. Nothing that just black people can have it, or it only applies to black people that just can't stand it. So one black leader observed, we are treated as aliens in our own country. Rather than view our ability to survive on the new land as a major victory for America, whites see it as a loss for them and a dangerous advantage for us. Yeah, that's chapter, I believe it's chapter 3. No, it's chapter 2. The Atlantic Afrolantica Awakening. And then further in the book, there's the rules of racial standing. And the guy who's telling the story, who's like the main character of the story, he meets up with this white woman. And he was of course he was minding his business, but she starts to tell him about an organization. She says, we're a collective of whites dedicated to doing what we can to shield blacks from the worst dangers of racism. She says that it might sound paternalistic, but it's not. She said, we believe that America's race problem is a white problem. We have determined to take personal responsibility for racism. Those of us living in isolated areas are in the process of altering our homes to hide, feed, and otherwise take care of black refugees. All of us undergo rigorous spiritual, moral, and military training. The last because we may have to launch attacks in order to defend blacks in a crisis. And of course, I thought of the same thing, John Brown. John Brown is the only liberal who put his money where his mouth was. These 20th century so called liberals, they're not from the John Brown school of liberals like Malcolm X used to say. He used to talk about liberals all the time. Liberals, liberals. Black people supposed to love liberals, but Malcolm X always asked the question, are they from the John Brown school of liberals? And of course, the answer is no. Most people don't know who John Brown was. John Brown and his sons is the one black, not black, he was white. One white man, him and his son, they was down for the cause, and that's why so many black people name last name Brown is what I think. I used to call myself Rashida Brown. Yeah, so John Brown. Nobody wants to talk about John Brown because they was hanged for treason. They was hanged for treason at a time when, and I believe the state was North Carolina, where these guys went in there and got rid of all the black people who have been duly elected to the office. They got rid of them, but John Brown and his sons was hanged at Harper's Ferry. Hanged. Treason. That was like the worst thing a white person could have done in those days, was to commit treason, and for it to be against the U.S. made it worse. So yeah, he hanged. Him and his sons hanged. But they don't talk about John Brown while trying to whitewash American history when it comes to slavery. They don't want to talk about John Brown, but you need to Google John Brown and read about him for yourselves. There was white people down for the cause, but I don't know if I can imagine that happening um, in 2026. There are so many racist people in the US, and that's the reason why this attitude proliferates to the extent that it does. That white people act the way that they do. They want to be able to say with no consequences, they want to be able to say the word nigger. They want to be able to call you a nigger. And I say we should call white folks niggers. That's what we should do, like nigger Joe Rogan and nigger Joe Biden. Yeah, that's what we should do. And you know what'll happen? If you ever seen the episode of South Park called, I believe it's Ode to Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson's name is in the title. And it has to do with some white guy saying the nigger word, and then he's being called that. Yeah, if you're gonna say the nigger word, then you need to be called that. And that the word needs to go in front of your whole name. Nigger Donald Trump. All of them. Call them niggers and see how they like it. And you know what? If you read White Trash, 400 Years of Class in America, white niggers was something that they called poor white trash. White niggers. And I remember the time I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I saw a little white kid say to another little white kid, "Come on, nigger." They call each other nigger too. But in 2026, they want to imply that the word nigger only applies to black people. Black people. And it don't matter where you're from, black people, black person. You think they distinguish black people from the US from black people from anywhere else? No matter what country you come from and you black and you in the US, you may as well fess up to being black because they see you as black, even though you probably identify as white on your on the census report. That's how the United States has kept the population uh, to such that they make it look like white people are the majority in the US. No, they're not. That's a lie. Because you got all of these black people from God knows where. How many different countries have people been coming into the United States that are black countries? All of the island nations are black countries. And then speaking of island nations, all of y'all got the same history. All y'all been colonized and enslaved, either by the UK, Spain, Portugal, French, the Dutch. Everybody done colonized everybody. Every single island has been colonized. And I learned that on my travels since 2020 to all of the places I have been. Costa Rica, Curacao, Antigua, Barbados, every place, Aruba. Everybody talked about the pre-Columbian days and after Columbus and this happened and that happened and they had the sugar plantations. The sugar, that was the big thing, sugar. Especially on those islands. Barbados, famous for sugar. Jamaica, sugar. All y'all got the same history, but then y'all get to the US and y'all think y'all better than black people? Oh no. Not as long as I draw breath. Like it, don't like it, it's still the truth.